Hi guys, and welcome back to Football Manager 2014. It is Nick again. Thank you very much for watching the video. Hopefully you've also checked out all the other videos on our channel so far from Jake and Craig as well, which will be equally as interesting as mine, hopefully. Anyway, we'll move on to the actual save now then. So we've played 5 league games, which is kind of the deal when it comes to my save. I'm going to update you after every 5 league games. So 5 league games it gives us enough to talk about, and it also means that if we do have any cup games thrown in during the time as well, it also provides us the opportunity to fill the videos out a little bit and give you a bit of meat to get stuck into. So after 5 games we've actually been on okay form, to be fair, and as you can probably see here, we have just beaten the local rivals Slonsk 3-0, which was probably actually our most complete performance of the season so far. But we'll have a look at the results first of all. So we go on to our fixtures. As you can see, pre-season we went completely unbeaten. Slightly disappointing that we didn't beat Gornik Valbrishik there. I'll be completely honest with you, I don't tend to take much notice of friendlies because, well, I like to kind of leave that to the assistant manager, and I will look after the kind of squad building side of things and progressing other elements of the side. So I kind of ignored that. However, we did play Poplskidze in the first game and won 1-0, which was always a good start, with Arkadiusz Wozniak getting a very early goal, which really did set us on our way. I'll be completely honest with you, I don't remember much from this game, but it was the first game of the season that I actually got to use my selection of tactic for the first time, which we'll touch on a little bit later on. So that was the first game of the season. We then played Pogon Stettin and won 2-0, so Wozniak and Guldan getting the goals. I remember in this game in particular, Silvio Rodic in goal was absolutely phenomenal. And if you look at this, he's obviously only the 2.5 stars, but he was, so far in the season, he's been absolutely fantastic. I can't knock him whatsoever. As you can see, an average rating of 7.42 in the first 5 league games. He really has shone, and when you consider that Football Manager isn't too kind on goalkeepers, that's pretty good going, particularly in this game where he got the 8.5. Got to be honest, he did keep us in the game in the second half. I had a feeling this would be one of those saves where we kind of dominate the first half, second half everything just turns to, well, shit really. It's happened so many times to me in the past, I'll be honest with you. It's happened in most of the saves I've had on Football Manager 2014, which is probably why I've thrown my toys at the pram before. Yeah, I'm glad that we actually managed to fight off the late surge there, because they really did come into the game late on. So I'm really glad we managed to hold on and keep the 3 points. As you can see, it was actually not a bad overall performance. Romaniak 6.7. I had to take him off because he was a bit tired at half time, so that's why he went off. I do apologise, by the way, for the fact you can't actually see the names in full. It is because of the resolution. If I put my laptop on full screen and you watched the video on YouTube, you wouldn't be able to see a thing because my laptop screen is absolutely huge. It is a Toshiba satellite, so naturally the screen is absolutely massive. So unfortunately, this is how we're going to have to see things for now. But yeah, as you can see, we didn't play too badly at all. We were relatively effective. We had plenty of our shots on target, so can't complain there. And Piotr Ezikovic came in for his first senior game of the season as well, and I thought he was excellent in the absence of Pavel Alexei, who was injured for that particular game. After that, we actually played Ruk Harzhov and lost 1-0 despite it was a fairly even game, but I felt we deserved to get at least something from it. And as you can see, I did sign Thomas Eisfeld from Arsenal, and it was his debut. Unfortunately, he didn't really contribute a great deal, as you can see, because I subbed him off. So yeah, a bit of a disappointing game really. But hopefully obviously it didn't hinder us if you look at the rest of the games. After that we played Vidzu Vuj and won 4-0, which was a pleasant surprise. I didn't expect to get anything like that. In fact, when I lose a game, I kind of expect the whole team to capitulate. Such is my confidence in the game. But no, we actually bounced back and played absolutely fantastically well. So I was really pleased with that. As you can see, the back four were absolutely fantastic, including the goalkeeper. So the back five generally were really good. The two defensive midfielders, Piatek and Rakowski, were fantastic as well. Really helped create a balance between defence and midfield, which helped us out big style. I've also signed Samuel Galindo on loan from Arsenal, who hasn't really set the league alight just yet. I'm hoping that after a few games he can kind of bed in and get us moving a bit with regards to gluing a few attacks together. Obviously he can play on the left, he can play through the centre, he can also play up front, but he is at the moment playing through the centre in an attacking midfield position. I really went for him because I saw he had quite a lot of strong attributes, including teamwork and work rate, which is central to the way I play under the current system, which, as I say, we will touch on in this video, I promise. Yeah, I mean, looking at this again, Wozniak went off in the second half. I brought on Piek, who, as you can see, got 2 goals from the mid to late stages of the second half. I knew he would get goals for bringing him on, so always good to have a striker like that in your ranks. And then I have literally just played Slonsk in the derby, which is a big one for me, because if you look at their squad, I can't actually show you the full names, as I say, but their squad is genuinely brilliant. If I show you Sebastian Mila, top player, Marco Paixão, not top player, but on here he is massively overpowered. He does score his fair share. Adam Frachak, they've actually signed from Pogon. Thomas Holota is a decent player as well. Adam Kokoschka. You know, they've actually got quite a few players, and considering I didn't actually focus on them at all in the first video, I thought I'd just show you a handful of players there. But yeah, really happy to win 3-0. Obviously, with them being local rivals, we actually absolutely outplayed them as well throughout the whole game. The first half we were absolutely rampant. Alexei down the left hand side, he actually came back for this game. Did he actually come back in the Fujitsu game as well? Yes, he did. So in his first two games back, he got an 8.4 match rating, and this one I believe he got a 9.1 in fact. So yeah, that just shows you how instrumental he's been. He's been like the kind of final piece of the jigsaw at the back. He was always going to be first choice. Azikovic does turn incredibly good within one season at Zagłębie, so he will be getting his fair share of games, but Alexei is most certainly the first choice. As you can see, Wozniak and Guldan scored their 2 goals together again. One of them scores, the other one tends to score, which is becoming a little bit of a thing in this save. But yeah, as you can see, the back 4 yet again, and again the whole back 5 were brilliant. When the whole back 5 tend to play well, we win, and that was a really pleasing victory. Let's have a look at the table, because I was actually top after 2 games. Unfortunately that's not the case anymore, with Jagiellonia and Corona playing slightly better than myself. No teams with a 100% record, which is quite surprising. I thought at least one team would be up there with a 100% record, but evidently not. You'd expect Wisła to be right up there at the end. They are slightly overpowered considering how, not average, but they weren't exactly up to their full potential in real life, so they probably will be right up there on the game. So yeah, let's have a look at the stats as well, see who's leading the charts. So we've got Wozniak making an appearance in the top 5 goal scorers. We've got Alexei with his 2 assists. And that's really it for anything particularly impressive. Guldan doing very well at the back for us as well. I expect Alexei to catch up with him quite soon. We've only conceded the 1 goal against Rook, so we can't complain there. We're also the joint top goal scorers with Jagiellonia. So yeah, from what you can see there, we've actually had a very, very decent start, so you know, we can't moan there at all. Let's go on to transfers, because I've been quite busy here. From my standards, signings, I've not actually made that many. 3 is a drop in the ocean for me. I usually, when you come on to the thing is, when I post pictures of my transfer dealings, the list usually goes from where Drasbar is until where are they now. It usually goes the whole page down, so I've done really well to kind of control myself there, although to be fair, the financial constraints haven't really allowed for me to kind of dip in that much. I did ask to improve the transfer budget. They rejected my plea, so thanks board, you've actually kind of done me a little bit of a favour there, because the thing is, I would imagine when I make all my hordes of signings, it probably doesn't really do much for squad morale and team chemistry, so maybe a blessing in disguise. I thought, the thing is, I play, as I said again, we are going to have a look at my tactics. I actually play with 3 central attacking midfielders. So Drasbar was signed from Jagiellonia for 275k. If I do get regular games for him, I might even loan him out at some stage, but if I do get regular games for him, then he will no doubt turn into an excellent acquisition. He can tackle, he can pass, he's got plenty of creativity, and he's quite a lot of flair on him, good at running off the ball. So yeah, give him a couple of years. I fully expect him to be a key player. Samuel Galindo, I just felt I needed another player to kind of compete with Alexander Kwiek, just to apply a bit of pressure and allow for someone to come on in his place if he isn't really performing. So I have actually starting Galindo recently, which is probably something I should reconsider, considering his form. He hasn't been brilliant, to be quite honest. So we might look to change him and just leave him on the bench for a few games, see how he reacts to it. But as you can see, he's quite capable. The attributes would suggest that he could be a key player if he gets really into the swing of things. Thomas Eisfeld, he's just a player I really like, to be honest with you, and I saw that he was interested for quite a cheap price, so I thought I'd go for him. Another one who hasn't really been fantastic just yet. However, he is more likely to get more games than Galindo, simply because I do genuinely like him as a player. So, and as you can see as well, he can play as a trequartista, he can play as an advanced playmaker, and he can play as a shadow striker. I do actually play advanced playmakers and shadow strikers in my system, so yeah, he should get a few more games. In terms of players going out, I got rid of Manuel Curto because I'm not a big fan of him, to be honest. As I said in the first video, he has been very average in real life, and he hasn't really endeared himself to me at all. Yuri Bilek, much like Curto, in the sense that I actually wanted to make some money and see if I could kind of wheel and deal and see what I could do with regards to getting my own players in. As it turns out, Curto and Bilek kind of made way for Drasbar and Eisfeld, which is, neither player is as good as those two just yet, but they will be no doubt better than them once they're fully developed. Jan Wojciechowski, I said he'd get games if I kept him, but I've decided to loan him out. I have got an option to recall him, as you can see there, so I wouldn't loan any kind of youth players out with not being able to recall them, put it that way, because I like to develop my own youth players. Sebastian Baneczki is a player who actually broke into the first team in real life a few times. He is decent, as you can see. He'd be a good player in a couple of years. Hopefully he can really push on. Even I am not willing to pronounce that correctly. I can't be bothered to give that a go on this video. David Abwo I actually released. I offered a mutual termination and he agreed to it. If you really want to know why I wanted to get rid of him, refer to the first video, because I explain it all very well. Ariel Famunski I actually got rid of. I would rather like to sell him, to be honest. He is on the transfer list. Unfortunately he just isn't good enough. As you can see, he's got okay stats and he could probably fill in at right back, but I'm not keen on keeping players who are below 3 stars in terms of ability or potential, so I've got rid of him for now. Hopefully Plushkov take him on a permanent deal at the end of the season. Boris Godal, a player who was off due to serious illness before the season started. I decided to sell him to Slovan Bratislava simply because, well, I don't need him, to be quite honest with you. I've got plenty of right backs, I've got plenty of centre backs. I do not need him. Kamil Komodaj, again youth player, decided to loan out. Yaroslav Kubicki, a player who I will probably play in the first team at some stage. I thought he needed a bit of experience, so he's gone out to Limonovia. So that's a lot in terms of transfers. Now let's get on to tactics. Now, what I usually do when it comes to tactics is I am absolutely diabolical at building my own. In real life, I'd like to think my tactical knowledge is pretty good. I have spent hours and hours and hours analysing tactics by myself, so my tactical knowledge isn't shit. It's pretty good, I'd like to think. When it comes to Football Manager, you cannot implement everything that you want to, and that kind of transition between real life and really basic commands is really difficult for me to understand. Like, look at this. There's not even nearly enough kind of instructions or commands that you can really issue to your team. There's not enough there. I can't get into the nitty and gritty. So I do genuinely need help when it comes to setting tactics for Football Manager. I've actually gone along with one called, if we could find it on the list, Near Perfect 4231 by Andrich Band. I actually had a look on Football Manager on fmbase.co.uk and found this on the share and download tactics forum post, and this looked like a really interesting system to me. I like the balance of it. Anybody who even remotely followed my save with MS Val Duisburg on FM13 will see that it's actually a very similar system to what I deployed with them that led me to such success, such as winning the Champions League. Now obviously back on then, you didn't really need to have all the complexities involved. You didn't need to set wacky kind of player roles and things like that. On this one, player roles become far more in depth and far more detrimental if you get them wrong. So I haven't really changed many things because I wanted to test it out first just to see how it went. Obviously it's going really well at the moment in terms of my form, so I'm not going to change the tactic just yet. Actually I think I may have actually changed a little bit on here. Yes, on the actual default setting there is no passing command. It just leaves all of this completely blank. It's all black. I've actually gone for a more direct passing approach because I've realised on Football Manager 2014, if you have a team that's even remotely has even a remote amount of quality, it's always better to go with a direct play. I don't know why, I can't explain it, it's just one of those things. It does usually work for me, and so I've just carried that on with this, and it is working a treat, to be fair. So as I say, until that starts going wrong, I'm probably not going to touch it and go changing things, because knowing my luck, I'll completely fuck it up for the rest of the season, and I don't really want to be messing things up when I appreciate that I'm not the best at FM14, as I previously have been with 11, 12 and 13. So what we've got going on here is, as you can see, a 4-2-3-1. Now, what we have here is obviously we have a sweeper keeper. I'm not keen on the sweeper keepers, but as I say, because it was going so well, I've kept Rodic as a sweeper keeper. The fullbacks are set to attacking roles so that they can push the links from the defence through to midfield. That is basically the first attacking phase, as we do play out from the back from the keeper to the fullbacks or the centre halves. Both the centre halves are ball playing defenders so that they can actually supply the men to either side of them. So Guldan can go for Alexei, you can go for Rakovsky, you can even go to Piatek if he really desires. Obviously Banyas the same again. Romaniak and Alexei are both in real life very good at attacking anyway. Alexei is particularly good at attacking on FM. He's even on the older games such as 13 and 12 he was brilliant at getting forward. So as soon as he was fit again, he went straight into the side, and he's been brilliant in the 2 games he's played since coming back to fitness. Piatek and Rakovsky have exactly the same settings as each other. As you can see, Rakovsky's probably a bit more suited to it than Piatek, who is probably more of a central midfielder rather than a defensive midfielder. However, he is my best choice, at the moment, as I don't have a great degree of defensive midfielders apart from Guldan. But Guldan's been excellent centre half, so why would you change it? get a bit further on, obviously your midfield needs to support each other, so we've got a kind of supportive triangle here. That's something I've only just realised for those who fucking love their triangles and can't get enough of them. I personally don't give a damn about triangles. It's not all about triangles. Either side of Kwiatek we've got Przybecki and Adrian Boad. Przybecki isn't really the player I like to put there, in truth. I do tend to put Johan Bertelsen there, but as he's been in such bad form, as you can see by his 6.45 rating, I have decided to drop him. What I've realised recently, I have actually been dragging Wozniak into Kwiatek's position and putting Kwiatek on the right hand side of the central attacking three, and Wozniak's been doing really well in behind Kwiatek, so that might be an option in the future, because it seems that every player who plays in this right central attacking midfield role tends to get the lowest match rating, which is a bit strange. It's something we'll have to diagnose and sort out. Let's go on to the instructions then. So as you can see, I've already explained the direct passing bit. Playing out of defence is something that I like to do personally anyway, because I just feel that every attacking move needs to be started from, from the base. You need to have those foundations, and it needs to set the tone for the rest of the move. I like the fact that I have both Alexei and Romaniak, because as I said, they are both brilliant at attacking. And they really help get the move going through midfield. They're more than happy to carry on forward. It's almost a defensive wide midfielder, if you know what I mean. I don't want to say wing back, because that's not what I mean. They kind of get forward into that kind of void next to, if I go back onto here, next to Piatek and Rakowski. And if we are playing further up the field, they will give Przybecki and Boad support as well. So I guess, I guess you could call them wing backs, but I think they're a bit more than that. I think their role is kind of a bit more involved. Let's go back onto these again then. So drilling crosses and running at the defence. I think drilling crosses just creates more of a problem, to be quite frank. It causes a bit more of an uncertainty. If you're floating crosses in, you need to have a big bustling centre forward, and we don't have one of them. So drilling them in for a smaller lad like Piek, or a bit more of an all-round kind of centre forward as Wozniak really helps us. Now, this is where things get a bit strange in penetration and shape. By exploiting the middle, this allows us to kind of excuse me, it means we can get these three attacking midfielders set up. So we go from Piatek and Rakowski through to these three. If you watched our games at all, which you won't be because I'm not recording them, but if you just watched our games, you'd understand what I mean, because we progress right from the back, as you can see when we add the play out of defence command. So we go through the back four, through to the defensive midfielders, and they then have three men ahead of them to pick out at any one time, which is really handy. We also have I've set it up as our home pitch as the maximum size as possible, meaning that we can spread out and we can stretch defences and we can cause problems, which is probably going to be an interesting point, because how do we tend to do at home compared to away? 1-0 home win. Oh, so we've actually had a better away form. But yeah, I think we'll probably get more used to it as the time goes by, and we'll probably learn to stretch defences a little bit more. But that's the idea. We play from the centre and spread out when we're attacking, just to spread the defence a little bit and create spaces, which a striker like Wozniak and in particular Piek are good at picking out those spaces, which is why I really need to start playing Piek more than Wozniak. But I just love both of them, and it's really hard to kind of realise which player you should put in there. But yeah, use tighter marking. Marking is one of these really awkward things that I don't really like explaining, because it's not very fun. I'll be honest with you, using tighter marking was a kind of, I think that was something that I introduced to this set of instructions. That might have been my second command I put into it, simply because it worked so well on FM 2012. I just like to get into attackers' faces. I like to make sure they don't get enough space to do their thing. I don't like to allow them the space to move or turn or just anything. I like to restrict them as much as I possibly can, which is what obviously tighter marking allows. Obviously you do need to have a quick defence as well, because if they apply themselves too tight to a man and the man kind of gets past them, you have fucked it. They need to be able to track back quick, which is a good job. I've got quick fullbacks in particular because they can track from our two centre halves, and it's also good that we have two defensive midfielders because they can also track the back four as well, which is also really handy. Playing at a high tempo is big for me because we have got a lot of pace in the squad, so that really speaks for itself. In terms of being more disciplined, I like to make sure my players don't go wandering out of position too often. I like them to stick to obviously my commands and keep it simple. So they obviously do have a little bit of a roam. They can kind of leave their own stamp on the game. I just don't like them kind of going out and doing their own thing rather than sticking to the rules, and which have obviously worked very well so far and getting us into third place so far. So yeah, that's a lot in terms of tactics. It is a very good system and it has worked really well for me, so hopefully I've helped Mr. Andrich Band get a bit more publicity there. Top tactic, well done. I think that might actually just be it for this video. So we've summed up the games, we've summed up the rest of the squad, and all that kind of thing. I noticed, actually, we'll go on to something else, I noticed Jake introduced himself properly on his second video, so I think I'll do the same thing. Obviously my name is Nick, and as you've probably seen from the Carlton Town video I started, which I've got to be completely honest with you right now, I probably won't be playing. I'll probably be sticking on this save because I just enjoy it so much more and it's a lot more fun. But as I was explaining on that, I am the chief scout at Carlton Town, which is something I am very proud of, despite how low down the footballing pyramid they are. That is something I'm very proud of. Now, you might be wondering why the hell I've picked Zagłębie Lubin as my team. The reason is because I do take quite a lot of interest in Polish football, and I do like to kind of dip into, well, really, I'm a bit of a non-league and Polish football enthusiast. I like to look into things that not many people take a huge interest in. As Jake said in his video, you might want to call me a hipster. I don't really give a fuck, because it's not. I don't see myself as that. I just think it's interesting. If you know, I think it's important for people to be a little bit different and look into different things. Otherwise, if we all talk about the Premier League, it gets really fucking dull. If you look at my Twitter feed, you'll see the amount of people that talk about the Premier League all day, and it's just not interesting. You're all saying exactly the same shit. You're all saying exactly the same thing, and it's fucking dull. So, yeah. But apart from that, I do actually genuinely like the club, to be honest. They've got a really good youth setup, as you've probably seen from the players that I've shown you so far. They are renowned as having one of the very finest youth academies in Poland. For a club that's actually relatively big, they've not won a real hoard of trophies, but then Poland has always been dominated by 3 or 4 particular sides, so it is really hard, as it is in many leagues, to crack the big ones. But yeah, it's just one of those things, really. I mean, I just find them a genuinely interesting club. I find the extra class so an interesting league. Just one of those things. But that's why I've chosen them, simply because I have adopted them as one of the teams I like to follow. As well as Zagłębie Lubin. I'm obviously a Boston United fan. I did start off as a Nottingham Forest supporter, right from probably the age of, I'd probably say 6 or 7. But since going to university, I could not afford tickets. I couldn't even afford the train to get back to Nottingham from Stafford. And it was really dull just listening to the radio every single Saturday, realising that I had no money. I couldn't go to games. And to be honest, when you go to games at these kind of levels, unless you already know people that you go with, it's not actually that much fun, I don't think. I prefer to go to games and talk to people and have a laugh, which is exactly what I now do when I go to watch Boston United. It took me 5 minutes, to kind of meet people and get to know them. At Forest, I went to Forest on and off for about 10 years, 11 years, 12 years, something around that kind of region. Didn't meet a single person at a game. It's just dull. And when you live in a Leicestershire village, you're not going to meet many people who are interested in Forest, let's be honest. So yeah, I mean the community feeling of being involved with Boston United is a lot more rewarding, a lot more enjoyable than supporting Forest ever was for me personally. Obviously, I do see myself as a Forest fan still. I obviously still look out for their results and I wish them all the best and all that kind of thing. But Boston United is certainly my priority when it comes to football now. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of teams I like, as I'm sure there are with many people. Like Jake said, Jake didn't actually touch on half the teams he actually likes, just between me and you lot. But yeah, he didn't touch on all of the teams. But again, I'd rather be like that than be someone who restricts themselves to, you know, their one club. I find people who restrict themselves to one club and don't know anything else outside of that pretty boring. So, you know, it's not a bad thing to be interested in other leagues. It's not a bad thing to be interested in other teams. It's just one of those things that if you find it interesting, why not, you know, follow it a little bit. It doesn't mean you have to support them to find it all interesting. So yeah, that's where I'm coming from anyway. So hopefully that explained a little bit into why I've made this save, a little bit about me, and also hopefully you've enjoyed the video about the main purpose, which is Football Manager. So until next time, thank you very much for watching. It will be updated, this as I said at the start of the video, every 5 league games. So within that we may have a couple of cup games thrown in, meaning that we then review 7 games, which would hopefully make it a bit more interesting. But the reason I've actually made it 5 league games is because it keeps me going on the save, and I don't want to get to a stage where I'm doing loads of games in a big chunk and I come back to it and I've got to trawl through all of these results. I just can't be bothered with it. So hopefully we can keep this going every 5 league games, and you'll find it interesting, and hopefully we'll end the season with a little bit of success. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.